Hi guys, welcome to MBA Podcast. In this podcast, we have Sanjana with us. She is from IIM Lucknow alumni, and she has worked as a director in Standard Chartered Bank, and she also worked as a VP in HSBC Bank. So we are going to get to know about her journey and about few things, few tips about VRC as well. Hi ma'am, welcome to the show.
Hi Shiva. Thank you so much for calling me. And one request is please call me Sanjana. No, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, you can tell audience about yourself.
Okay, sure. So, hi everybody. This is the first podcast I'm doing, so I'm a little nervous. Very briefly about me, I'm originally from Orissa. I did computer science engineering, and then I graduated, and I had already taken CAT, and I got into IIM Lucknow. The focus was primarily from a career development perspective. Had a fantastic experience at IIM Lucknow, and then I worked across 3 companies, a startup as well as HSBC and Standard Chartered Bank. But for the last few years, I've been coaching at MockCat, where I primarily take care of the verbal section.
Okay. Like we can start from the main question, like why you wanted to do an MBA during that time?
Sure. The honest answer is actually career advancement. So I was somebody, I didn't get into IIT or NIT. I didn't really study much at that time, which I don't recommend. But because of that, the placements weren't as great. In any case, even if you compare with any UG, the jobs that you get after MBA, right, they put you into senior positions, senior designations with high salaries.
Correct.
So for me, that was a focus. I was one of the first people in my college to get placed, but that wasn't something that I saw myself doing for a very long time.
Okay.
And I had 2 options. So one would have been doing MS and going overseas, which I didn't want to do. I wanted to stay in India. So MBA was like a natural next step. The CAT exam came easy to me also. As I said, I didn't get into IIT or NIT, didn't crack JEE, but CAT was easier. So luckily when I was in college, I cracked it and then I got into IIM Lucknow.
How was your IIM Lucknow experience? And like students now, it's the results are coming out. Like before a student join an IIM, what are the things they need to be prepared of?
Sure. My experience was fantastic. So for me, I mean, I was somebody where I was coming from an engineering, from a technical background. MBA, the business aspects, I did not know about it at all. I had a bit of an idea about finance because my dad is a banker, but that was about it. So going there, I think the best thing about an IIM, actually two best things I have to tell you. First is the first year is a general MBA. So they teach us everything. So we got to learn finance and marketing and operations and HR and communications. So then we could choose our specialization. Whereas if you see in engineering, you are always choosing your specialization before, right? So this, I think, is a great way in which the program is structured at IIMs, and majority of the top B schools do that. The second thing I think that an IIM or any top B school does is it gives you a lot of opportunities. See, studies is a part of it, and the studies are harder. You will have these 10-20 pager case studies, you will have surprise quizzes. Lucknow, the nickname for it is actually hell because academically it's very rigorous. Of course, Ahmedabad is widely considered to be the most rigorous with, I think it's 100% attendance. Ours was 80. But that part is rigorous, but that's not the only thing you do. You will have plenty of time to be part of initiatives. So I was part of a committee. There were competitions that we used to sort of, participate in. There were senior people from the industry who used to come and speak with us. So that gave you a very good idea of what life will be after an MBA, what are the different roles which are there. Plus it also, I think, because see, I mean, I was a fresher, right? And I don't have any commerce background. Suddenly I'm going and, my first role, I was heading the business development for Western India, and it was a startup, right? So everything we had to do. Then I was an AVP at HSBC, became a VP, and then a director at Standard Chartered. I think a lot of this, I was industry ready, as we say, in the B school because of all of these experience which we had. So it's a lot of hard work, but it's a lot of fun, and you really make a lot of good friends because most of it is going to be group work, right? So projects and all. So I think that was fun.
Okay.
My answer is very long.
No, it's fine.
We'll edit this part out. Okay.
And the main thing is, like you told, like being a fresher, you joined an IIM. Like what you will recommend for the audience? Like, joining as a fresher is good, or having at least 2 years of work experience is better?
Right. So I'll give a slightly more nuanced answer. See, the thing is this, right? So what is most important is probably the B school that you get into, because from a placements perspective, or even if you want to become an entrepreneur from a credibility and learning standpoint, the better the B school, the better the people that you're surrounded with, the better the learning, and the better the brand that you have. So lot more more opportunities on average will come to a top B school. So that is something, for example, we saw at IIM Lucknow. There were somewhat better opportunities at ABC, but we had a lot which maybe somebody at a so-called 15th or 20th ranked B school might not get. So I would say that is the most important first off. So why I'm saying this is, if at all, because the results are coming out now, so if at all someone's not cracking a top 10 or a top 15 B school, if it is possible for you, please work and please take CAT one more time. And that I think will be the biggest thing. But specifically looking at work experience, see, as a fresher, there were parts which I didn't understand. And there were those of my batchmates who had work experience who did get it. Like Vignesh also, if you see, right? He had 4 years of work experience. His was very different. He was one of very few commerce grads, been in Singapore and all. But generally also when people do have work experience, there is that added experience that they're able to get. Because it's case study discussions, right? So if I am part of an HR class and we are speaking about how to motivate people to work. Now I have no experience of doing that. So that is obviously something which I would like. So I wouldn't say that there is a standard 2 years. I would say if you are able to get either relevant work experience, which is somewhat rare, but if you're able to get work experience which is relevant, maybe something into consulting or something into marketing or something in finance or accounts. So that would be really helpful. Or second is, if your work is giving you opportunities where you're able to lead teams, make presentations, interact with clients, then I think again that sort of polishes you, and that again is something which will help as an MBA.
And the main thing is, like, as you are an engineer and you end up getting into finance and banking, like what are the things you did in order to get into this banking sector? And like you could also suggest for the peoples who want to switch their career into investment banking or something, what certifications or anything.
Sure. So it was actually a lot easier our time, because our time, I think out of 240 students that we had at IIM Lucknow in the regular MBA, regular PGP, 232 of us were engineers. Now if you see, the IIMs focus a lot on diversity, academic diversity specifically, because that is what the companies want. You don't want to see 10 engineers, 9 of them guys. So you want to have that diversity, because a diverse set of people will always be more creative and come up with better answers, and the skill sets will sort of fit in and work. But that obviously makes it a little tougher for you if you are not from the commerce background. Where it is not so much of an issue is if you want to get into consulting, because tech consulting also can get you into business consulting. So let me probably talk about both of these, because investment banking and investment banking or banking in general and consulting are the more sought after careers. From a banking perspective, I would say the most important is actually you getting into the better B school. So IIM ABC have the best roles. Lucknow will be a little bit less, score code a little bit less, and so on. So a high CAT score and doing well in the interview has got to be a step one. But if now the results are coming out and you would probably have time. So what you can do is you can get some certifications. The best one would be CFA. That is a little hard and it is expensive. But if you get that, that is a very clear signal to the banks that you are somebody who wants to get into banking, who wants to get into finance. So that I think would be a good one. On the consulting side, I would say competitions and polishing up things like guesstimates and all will help you. Because for consultants, they don't only look at a good GPA, they also want to see what are the activities that you've done, the initiatives. So people can right now maybe go on to Unstop and participate in competitions. Those who are in college, you'll have a lot of opportunities, right, with fests and all. So that is something which you can do.
Being part of a finance club is also an advantage.
Extremely helpful. Being part of a finance club, if you're investing on your own, even if you don't have too much money, if you're a college student, you can just have like a virtual profile or something like that. And I think reading the news, particularly business news, will also help, because you understand different industries. So say what is happening now, right? I think almost everybody who watches your podcast will know about the US-Iran-Israel war, the Strait of Hormuz. But if you know a little bit more that 90% of India's energy comes from there, or over a quarter of all the product flow happens from there, what is the impact? Why are the prices going up? Why is that then having an impact on, say, gold prices or stock markets? That is very helpful. However, I want to say, see, if you feel that you don't have too much time to do this now, it's okay, because once you get into B school, literally your prep for this will start from day one.
Correct.
So you will have seniors who will guide you. They will tell you what are the paths to focus on, or what are the competitions that you can take part of. So if you are not able to take up a CFA, for example, which will take time, don't be disappointed. You still will have ample opportunities, especially if you're getting into a top B school.
Correct. Then you can little bit talk about how was your work. I mean, how was your experience in HSBC as a VP, and you can talk more about us being a director and that because getting a job in those companies itself is a very difficult thing for a finance guy who want to start his career. But you are being the top managerial role.
Right.
So what will be your day-to-day activity, and you can talk about those experiences.
You'll make a very good director. I love how you're directing the conversation. No, but on a serious note, it is actually not that difficult. So if you see Vignesh, for example, he was one of, I think, 3 or 4 commerce grads, had a much higher GPA than me and relevant experience. But both of us were able to get into HSBC Bank as AVPs. His profile was better and hence the role that he got was better. But what the bank saw in me was the fact that I've cracked a tough exam. I had specialized in finance, I'd taken up economic subjects. I was able to answer those things in the interview. So I think that the brand itself is something which helps. Like if you see, the top 10 B schools, whether it is for summer placement or for finals, they are able to place the entire batch. No matter whether you're a fresher, whether your ACADs are good, not good, everybody gets placed in 5 days. However, obviously, if you want to get the best jobs, you do need to put in the work. You need to have a good GPA, these initiatives that we spoke about. But it's all worth it. Because for me, both HSBC and Standard Chartered were fantastic experiences. And when I got into HSBC, I joined as an AVP. And then in about, I think, 3 or 4 years, I got promoted to being a VP. But from the start, the clients that I had were the top MNCs. So my customers, we were in Mumbai, right? So my customers were Hindustan Unilever, Aditya Birla, Pfizer, all of these. Nobody thought that she's a fresher, or she doesn't have too much of experience or learning beyond just the MBA. They took a chance and I did well. Of course I delivered. I had to work hard. But then from there on it sort of automatically continues. So as long as you're ambitious, you're doing the work. And I was always somebody where I was like, okay, if you're giving me this target, can I get to like a 1.1 or a 1.2x and things like that? And another thing I think that an MBA does is it opens your doors also, because a lot of your senior management, they will be from these IIMs.
Correct.
So, because you have that sort of an alumni connect, you're not, I would say, you'd be more open to going and talking to them. I don't think anywhere somebody will not say that, oh, I will give her 5 lakhs extra simply because she's from my B school. But the fact that I'm going and talking with these people, I'm telling them, hey, do you know, yesterday I cracked this deal and this happened and can we do this? I think obviously, then you're noticed a little bit more.
Correct.
In Standard Chartered, frankly, the fact that I was from IIM Lucknow, it played a major role because I had interviewed for an associate director position, which is one down.
Okay.
But then they gave me a director position literally without me asking, because the HR realized that people who have work experience around what I have are at a director level. So they were pretty frank. They said, see, I don't know if I should disclose this or not, but they said, see, we don't want you to come in at a slightly junior designation and feel that, hey, you're not where you should be, because we want you to obviously stay. So they didn't give me a hike beyond what we negotiated, but they did give me this promotion, which then helps in bonuses and things like that. And again, in Standard Chartered also the same. I was here in Chennai, so my clients were Daimler, Kia Motors, Ford, all of the big ones here. So that I think is again an advantage that you get from the top B schools, provided you deliver, where you will get access to better opportunities and a better client set, which then helps you to deliver. And then obviously, your career advancement also ends up happening better.
After this, like almost 8 years of experience in banking, then why you suddenly jumped into MockCat and you co-founded this MockCat?
Right.
What was the major reason?
So I was actually, so Vignesh had founded Mockat. This was around 2015, 2016. I continued working till the pandemic, but I used to work over weekends. For Vignesh, he was always really good on the quant DILR front. He's also fine in verbal, but I was getting higher scores. So for me, I am better at the verbal and the DILR part.
Correct.
So verbal especially, I used to pitch in and I used to help out over weekends because I've cracked the CAT exam, right? So this is the part which is interesting for me. There was also a bit of a, like a personal thought process. See, I am from a fairly small town. I'm from Rourkela in Orissa, and I'm sure you've not heard of it. If at all you've heard of it, it's because there's NIT Rourkela. That's about it. So back when I took CAT, right, which was in 2006, the internet was still new. There wasn't as much guidance unless you're from the metros or you're from like, the tier 1 places. So for me, I literally see the reason I got into IIM Lucknow, my overall percentile was good enough for ABC, but I didn't clear the sectional cutoff. But when I took CAT, I didn't even know that there's something called a sectional cutoff because I didn't go for coaching. So that definitely was a reason. But this was the thing, right? Whereas now, if you see, somebody can go on the internet, they can find your podcast, they can find a lot of information. So for me, that personal aspect was also there. That see, there are certain things which I know, which maybe students don't know. And a lot of times along with students, you see a lot of parents, they don't know. They don't realize that if you do an MBA, you should do an MBA from a top B school because that is where you get the best opportunities. And an MBA is a great way to advance your career, whereas a lot of people might focus on some of these, other entrance exams which tend to be more competitive. So this actually paradoxically sometimes gets easier to crack and you get a more senior role or a better salary. So I thought that when I know this, maybe this is something that I can share with people. So there was that personal aspect. But I also enjoyed teaching. I love reading. So I really like the verbal part especially. And it's also work, I think. See, I love the bank work also. I did really well there. That was also hard, right?
And actually, banking is a little bit of boring job.
No. Banking is also very interesting. Don't let anybody tell you that. See, a lot of people think banking is only sitting in Excel sheets, number. It is not like that. See, the problem is, no, Shiva. Mostly, we only know the retail banking part because you and I, what we'll do, we'll have UPI, we'll go to the branch.
Nearby SCB.
Correct. They'll be out for lunch and all. See, let me tell you, when you're working.
Proper. If you ask something, come later.
Or go to this person and all that. So no, but when you're working for that is why working for the top corporates helps. See, because corporates, they're obviously going to be more demanding. There are far more structured products. So we had solutions where, so UPI, for example, right, for retail, it's such a fantastic product. You don't have anything like that in a majority of the countries. I think India was the first there, right? And really hats off to also things like, people like Nandan Dilekani, who then, ran with the Aadhaar project and all of that. But at the corporate level, you have a lot, right? So you will have literally you press one button and so many people would get their salaries. You're able to pull money from your customers. So there is a lot which is there, and every sector is different. So when I was working with Hindustan Unilever, for example, the solutions which we told them would be very different from what we would tell Daimler or a Kia Motors, right? So that different sectors, different products, it's actually very interesting. And you're also interacting with CFOs, treasurers, one-downs and all of that, right? So your conversations which are happening are also at a very interesting level. And I mean, some of the things like my country head at HSBC had told me this thing that data is the new oil. Way back when, all of this data analytics and all, nobody was talking about it. Yeah, something around that. So that's the thing, right? So that is a caliber of people that you interact with. And that has nothing to do with me having an MBA, right? The senior people across any company you see, they would be some of the smartest people. That's for sure. And, there'll be people who'll ambitious, people who'll want to grow. See, I don't want to paint like a very rosy picture. Of course, there'll be highs and lows. All of that will be there. But I had a fantastic experience there. But I probably do like MockCat more because there it was like somebody else is designing the product or RBI is giving a directive and I'm doing a part of
the guidelines.
Correct. Hey, I'm not a rule breaker now also. but I have like this much of work which I am doing. But here I can design the entire curriculum. I can come in and say that, listen, I feel that for verbal, this author's point of view is something which is really important, and let's design a whole module around it, or let's teach students this way, or, like when Vignesh, he feels that, we should do this one-on-one mentoring, and he's comfortable sharing his phone number, which a lot of people won't do. But that is a call which he can take. Right? Now, this might seem much smaller than, say, having a product in a bank, but I would say your destiny is more in your hands, right? So you feel that, okay, if I want to do this, I can go for this, right? So that, I think, is an advantage at any startup. And the startup that we've chosen, I think I like it because, one, I am good at it, right? I have those 9.9 plus. So this is something which comes easy. This is also something which I like. And talking with young people and also people like you, I think the entire work is interesting. It keeps me also feeling young.
But I am just completely opposite in this VRC thing. I was just clear the cutoff and I just made it to IIM because VRC is one of the most difficult section for me and also for watching people, for a lot of them. Uh, what you suggest to them?
Why do you say that? Why do you think that cat verbal is hard?
Reading is what we
Reading.
don't usually read,
Yeah.
and even though if you read, like usually
You
for
read
leisure
novels and
reading
all.
is fine.
Correct.
But if you set a timer, within the time you need to read,
Right.
and then you need to understand and you need to answer.
Solve, yeah.
And those questions which they ask in exam also, it will be a lot of twisted and turns.
It'll be hard. That
Even
is
if you miss one button between, the entire answer will be wrong.
Correct.
So there are so many challenges.
Correct.
So that's why most of the students, what they will think is, they will keep VRC as just we need to clear the sectional cutoff. So for
and the sectional cutoff is higher also in verbal than the other two sections.
Actually, like when I cleared the cutoff, I scored more marks in VRC only.
But your percentile would have been little lower, no?
So somewhere around 75 or something I got. But like 7 questions I wrote correct in VRC, I guess. 75% I got. But in other 2 sections,
that would have been
only
would have been a higher percentile. Yeah.
So for those students who are very very weak at VRC, what tips you will tell them?
See, I think first off, the most important thing you pointed out, which you've realized because you've taken the exam, is there is the preparation part and there is also the stress of a timer. Right? So I'll give a slightly longer answer here, I'm sorry. But I would split it into 2 sets of people. See, there is one set of people where genuinely they haven't read much and the understanding the RC itself is hard. For somebody who's at that level, I would say that you need to give at least about a year where you are starting, you are reading, if there are words you don't know, you Google it, you write it down, right? You focus on understanding it. But the reality is this, as you said, right? 7 to 8 questions is enough to clear the sectional cutoff. That means if you go for the 2 easy RCs or 1 easy RC and few easy VA questions, you can still clear the cutoff. But at MockCat, my aim is every student who comes, how can I take you to a 99 at least, right? And there comes the bigger struggle, which is while, this reading part, saying that, okay, I was not reading anything like this. Maybe I read only fiction or maybe I don't read at all. But of course, you can go to a free daily POV section and you can just read an article, you can solve CAT RCs and you can get used to it. The bigger problem becomes, how can I read this RC, extract the main points? Because your questions are going to be what will strengthen the author's view, why is this example given or things like that. So for that, you have to practice what I call finding the author's point of view, which is very different from what we do in school. See, in school, the questions you had were, when did this war happen? What are the causes? What happened as a result? So it is all, in Hindi we have a term called ratta maru. It is all memorization, or at least most of it is memorization, right? Or in English and all also, it's more about writing. I've literally had students who have got 90 plus, even full 10 GPA in English, but they struggle with CAT verbal because the school method is a little different. So you have to first work on that discipline. First, you have to understand, I need to find what is the main thing in this particular RC, right? And I have to always look at it as, this is what the author is saying. Sometimes you will have 2 people's views, the author's view and a counter view. You have to isolate the author's view. Be careful, don't bring in your own view. See, I might have a view, I love iPhones, for example. But when there is an RC which says that the printing press has had a much bigger impact than an iPhone, I have to answer the questions from that perspective. So you have to isolate the author's view first. And then once you do this part, then the next part of it becomes easy. And if you do it as a daily practice, you are reading from CAT sources, you are reading across CAT genres. So a lot of people know we are comfortable with science, or commerce students are comfortable with economics. But when you do this daily reading, you bring in abstract also, you bring in psychology also, you bring in socioculture also. So you become more comfortable.
Those if you check the past papers of RC also, definitely there will be from one RC from history, psychology, tech,
some philosophy.
Animals.
Animals are so popular, right? So yeah, sometimes I feel, if I had done biology, I would have got that 100%, right? No, but jokes apart, yeah. So you have to be comfortable with all, and you have to put in this practice even before you start solving RCs. Then once you solve RCs, then you understand more about how to use it, how to eliminate, because like you said, right, they will set traps. And how they set traps is, they will make one answer which will be wrong, but they'll use words from the passage. So that will automatically pull you. Or they'll make it 80% right, but one kutty thing they'll make it wrong, which means that entire option becomes wrong. So if you are rushing because there's a timer, then it becomes a like an issue, right? So you have to, so even if the RC you are reading little fast, there are specific parts which you should focus on more. And then in the questions and the options, you should definitely read fully. So, but you brought about a very interesting point that we have all read English throughout in school, right? And verbal is a section where actually the 99th percentile in verbal last year was 44 marks, whereas for quant it was 27 marks. So verbal most definitely can be a high scoring section. So one of the things which I am doing is, see, for our students, we have our videos, we have our live classes, they get daily feedback from me and so on, right? But for like, our audience who just has a subscription, they are only able to read that RC and find the POV. And sometimes people give feedback where, we'll do a workshop or something, they'll come and they'll say that just that was not enough. So, and this is actually why I wanted our podcast to be next week. I don't know when this will be out, but from the coming Monday, we are actually putting up a free course on YouTube on our MockCat channel, where every day I'm going to explain not just this POV technique, but how to solve questions, what are the genres, what are the different question types, how to eliminate and all. So 100 videos we are going to be putting up on YouTube. So I am really hoping that helps.
You can see, we recently launched on April 1st on Fool's Day. We launched MBA Tamil community app.
Oh, nice.
Where that app it's a networking app where students can be part of it and they can interact with anybody through that app, and it's like a peer learning concept. So you can also be part of this, and whatever you share in YouTube, you can just share it it's like a free app only.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, definitely. But because I gave a very long answer, so to simplify, so first off, get comfortable with the CAT genres. Even if you do read books, chances are it's unlikely that you're reading books like Sapiens or Guns, Germs and Steel and all, which actually come up in CAT. So use our daily POV or use whatever, right? Just go to the sources and read from there. Second, practice finding the author's point of view, even in RCs, but first in articles. But in RCs, even before you go to the questions, try to extract what is the key message or what is the author trying to say. So that is what I call the POV.
POV, I also have one important thing to share about POV, because why POV important is, we might have heard or know about a lot of things. As you talk about this iPhone versus filter, usually if you ask, anyone will give positive comments on iPhone only.
Yeah.
But in that article, it will be completely against iPhone.
Correct.
They
are saying the iPhone has done nothing.
Correct.
But you have to answer from that perspective. What you said is absolutely right.
That's why POV is important.
That is definitely a very important point, because if I know something, see, if I'm just reading that RC and then something is in my mind, both will get mixed up. Correct. So when you are actually articulating the POV and you are saying it, then that is something which helps you to A, find the author's view, B, make sure you're not mixing up your view. And then it gives a lot more clarity. See, one more thing which happens in RCs, you would have seen that, right? Is it option A or option B? How many times students will tell me, ma'am, I was thinking of A and B, I went with A, the answer is B. Correct. So a lot of clarity. So then you should also practice the POV. No, but for me, I don't face that most of the time, because for me, I'll be like, I know A is the answer because it is sort of linked with the POV. So that is something which I try to get all of our students to do. So that would be the most important. And I think one more thing is taking a lot of mocks, or even like 15 minute like single RC practice if you do not 10 to 15 minutes. Because see, there is also that stress of a timer. So when you can do all the POV practice, all the proper practice, be very disciplined. But when a timer is running, you might not do all of that because you're like, I have to solve more questions. So the more timed practice you do, definitely the better. You are simulating the exam conditions. And different mocks will be different, right? Somewhere verbal will be easy, somewhere verbal will be hard. So you will also get used to whatever can happen in CAT. And I think another thing is, you spoke about not reading. How many of us are taking 2-hour exams? So the more you take, not even sectionals, the more you take mocks. Like we have 25, we actually have 50 plus mocks, but our own mocks are 25 mocks, because one, you face whatever can come in CAT. Second, you get used to taking these 2-hour tests. So see, because like if verbal is not your strength, if quant is your strength, now you are going to get a higher score in quant no matter what. But if quant is coming after two sections where you worked hard, verbal is difficult, DILR is so difficult, then you're coming to quant. By that time, you don't even have energy left to score. I always feel that is also one of the reasons, because why is quant going to be a low score?
A lot of students are getting failed because of that. They will feel that VARC is the last section.
No, we don't want that. No, then you'll sleep off. Yeah. No, but that is the point. See, because you've done English, you've done maths. Right, and verbal, if you don't understand the RC, it is hard. But quant, if you know the formula, you can solve. You don't have this A or B. You get the answer, you take. So either people don't prepare for it the CAT way. They use the school methods. But I feel a big thing is we don't take so many mocks. So 2 hours, our strength is giving out around that time. So sometimes I even tell students, take 4-5 ZAT past papers before, like in November, provided your CAT prep is done. Because then you're taking 3-hour exams. So 2 hours will seem even better for you. But don't do only that. Take proper CAT mocks.
Will you suggest any to solve the VRC in this much timer for a topper? Because time management is very important.
True.
Mainly if they got stuck in some question, and some people will
hold on to it. Let me go back, double check what is it.
So you give some tips on how to effectively manage timing on VRC.
Sure. So first thing I would say is there's something called question paper view. So question paper view, read one paragraph, find your 2 easy RCs and 1 backup RC first off, right? And your VA questions you can do in between, in the beginning, in the end, whatever. That you can take tests and figure out your strategy. But always start with the easy RCs first. See, that is like a good warm-up. Even VA questions 2-3 you can do like a warm-up first. See, take what is a sport, Shiva, that you like? Cricket, no? How many people hit 6 on the first ball? Nobody, right? I mean, 1-2 people will get out. Yeah. But somebody who's getting that 50 or getting that 100, it takes Sachin, he has more than 100 hundreds. First 2-3 balls you're warming up, then you start hitting, right? So same thing you have to do in verbal also. See, and also in CAT, first they've made you sit over there. You are signing and all, but I almost get sleepy in that 45 minutes before the exam starts. So you can start with 2-3 VA questions as a warm-up. Then it is very important you go for the easiest RCs first. That will give you a confidence boost. And you will do that quickly also. So I won't say that you have to take 10 minutes per RC. I will say look at your average. Because on average, it can be 1 RC 8 minutes, 1 RC 12 minutes, but it is balancing out. But what you said is very important. See, you can't spend too much time on one question. See, either you mark it and you move on, or you mark it for review and you come back to it. And this is actually even more important for DILR. Because in DILR, sometimes even good students, right, they know that I can get this case. So then, our ego comes in saying, no, let me crack it. Or our nervousness comes in. I've spent 5-10 minutes. How can I waste it? But see, you have to remember that an easy RC also gives you 12 marks, a tough RC also gives you 12 marks. So if I can get 12 marks in 8 minutes, why will I get 12 marks in 15 minutes? Because CAT, it is all about time management. Time is your biggest resource which is there. So you have to go for easy questions first, and you have to be ready to leave it. You read 3 paragraphs of an RC, seems hard, just mark the first question for review, come back to it later if you want. Do the same thing for DILR. DILR, I will actually turn the page in my notepad saying I'll go solve something else. Then let me come back if at all I have time. And if I don't have time, who cares? Because I've already solved something else. So it's done. So I would say it can be between 10 to 15 minutes per RC, but always start with the easy RCs and don't spend too much time. If you feel it's either A or B, if you've read the RC well, just go for A and move on. See, if you have 2 questions like that, one question you get it right, you get +3. One question you get it wrong, you get -1. You still get +2, no? So if you've read the RC well and somewhat you've practiced, you at least will have 50% accuracy, which means at least you're ahead.
And mainly you might have solved so many VRC questions and you might have taken maybe thousands of mock tests.
I have taken very few mocks.
Okay. Main thing is what kind of jugaad you did to, in the last 5 minutes, if you want to quickly go read and solve.
Right.
And people will do some guesswork also.
Right.
What you did in your...
I am actually the wrong person to ask because I am somebody. I have when the paper used to be 3 hours. No, I do a lot of jugaad, but in quant and DILR, not in verbal. Because I will actually finish the paper before time. But see, I am not your competition. Most people are not finishing the paper. So I would say actually the opposite is more important, where you are not focusing on the number of questions, you are focusing on the number of right questions or your accuracy. See, verbal accuracy can never be 100%, and it is not meant to be also, right? That is why 99 percentile is 40 something out of 72, or overall 99 percentile is only 40 to 50% mark. Quant DILR, you can still say I won't make errors, but verbal, you will have some errors. So don't be nervous, but don't also rush and not do the POV or make silly mistakes, right? Because that is unnecessarily losing marks. So what I would say is this: if you start with the easy questions first, the easy RCs, you have anyway maximized the number of questions. What I do is I will finish off the RCs first. See, because in RCs I'm getting 14 or 15 out of 16, right? So that is the area where I'm getting the most reliable marks. Then whatever time I have left, I will go for VA. But one trick you can follow is, no, let's say Shiva, you have 2 RCs and you are not sure which RC to do and you have maybe 5-7 minutes left. Then I would say you read the questions. Which RC has some sentence from the passage? You can quickly try to read till there. Sometimes the RC will have question like in the first paragraph or in the third paragraph. Then you know that I can read that first paragraph and that's it. And there is every year there will be one RC like that. So that I think is something which helps. And one more thing is, no, if you have only 1-2 minutes left, whichever section you're in, go and punch in something for the theta questions because there's no negative. Now, jumbled paragraph, you might not get it right, but odd one out, if you're punching in 2, imagine if one becomes right, you'll at least get 3 marks for literally 0 effort. So that I think is a jugaad which can
No, which I said I also used to follow those things. Like the mainly, when an RC is very difficult, I also look the questions.
Whichever you can solve.
If the answers are too long, I won't touch them.
Right.
So in certain mocks, what I did is, I will just go through all the options. If the options are in short lines,
you can at least read and try to.
we can quickly read it and finish it.
Correct.
If it is too long, and if it is too long, there will be high chance of having lot of
some
traps.
small trap, correct, which you will miss out. Correct.
So those things.
That's a great idea, actually. See, you don't even need me for this podcast.
No, people need you. Okay.
No, but please, verbal is not hard. It is just that the way we have studied in school is different. It is hard to the extent that you have to read all these overseas RCs and you have to be comfortable with all different genres. But see, we are talking now in April, right? From April to end of November, we have more than 7 months. So that itself 200 days. If you are reading even Monday to Friday, if you are reading and you are reading 2 articles, that itself you are getting to almost 350 articles. That is way more than what I did for my own cat. So definitely this is something which you can work on, but you have to be prepared to work on. The people who lose, Shiva, they are not people who start out weak. We have literally had students who have come to us with low percentiles, right? And then the next year they've gone and they've got 99 plus, they've gotten to top B schools. The common theme of people who don't get it is either people who underestimate the exam, right? Where they will not do the preparation and they will start with, practice or mocks. A lot of people think, okay, you know what, I've cracked, like I'm an engineer, no? How many engineers come saying, oh, I've cracked JEE, CAT quant is nothing, or, oh, I've got good marks in English and math, so I need to only take care of DLR. So underestimating this exam and not realizing that this is different becomes a problem. See, for your 10th and 12th board exams, you are actually studying for 10-12 years. So for CAT also, you have to give that at least about 6 months to 1 year. I'm speaking in general. You'll always have somebody who's prepared only for 2-3 months and then cracked it. The problem is those are the people who get talked about. But I feel, and also because I was one of those people, right? I didn't get through IIT or
How
NIT.
much months you prepared during?
No, I only took mocks. So for me, the first mock I took, I got 95. Then I took mocks. But one thing I always did was, so we used to have, that time it was paper based. So I used to bring the paper back. Once I got the result, they used to give the solution booklet also. So why did I not get this, right? So I used to get angry. I was like, why am I not getting it? So that was the thing, I think, for me, that somewhere I was in the zone. So, and it's not that I am very great. I have not cracked other things. This was one thing where I've read a lot of books. The quant part was sorted. The DLR was fine. So with mocks itself, it was enough. I'll tell you, I actually admire people who have the guts to say that, you know what, right now, maybe I'm at a low percentile and maybe life is difficult because my college is hectic or I'm working, but I will push and I want only the top colleges. We have so many people. Like I was somebody where I had to force myself. I applied only to ABCL and XLR, right? Because I was like, if I apply to multiple places, no, I will simply not study. I used to take a bus and go and take the mock. Because
at that time the situation was different.
Yeah, it was very different, right? So it was paper-based exam. Paper-based 3 hours, no sectional cutoff, you can move around. Exam was very different. And there were few people also who were taking it then. So that was there. Marks, so like for example, I got 99.58 percentile. That itself was enough to get ABC calls because the sectional cutoffs were significantly higher. But really, I have seen so many people where they come in and say, I only want ABC, I only want top 5, I only want top 10. I have students who will come and tell me, ma'am, I want to get 99.9. You tell me what is to be done, I will do it.
Correct,
And they do it. And you don't need to become a zombie and say something like a NEET or a UPSC is hard because you have to memorize a lot. Here, you might find one section hard. You might have to do more in verbal or do more in quant. But if you do that and you take mocks, you see a score getting up. And like we tell our students that, you keep reaching out to us wherever you have doubts, wherever you have difficulties. But everybody can get access to some or the other mentor, right? Just YouTube might not be enough because you can't ask doubts. You can't
really important.
Some right? Reach out to somebody who has gone to an IIM or who's cracked an exam like this. Take their help, but be like respectful of their time also. Bunch up a lot of doubts and say, this is what is happening. Can you help me? And you'll find that a lot of people will help you if they are seeing that you are genuinely doing the work. So I think I will not say that CAT is super hard. It is also one of the lesser competitive exams in India. Like if you compare with a UPSC or a bank exam and all of that, here you have far fewer people taking it. So that bit is there, but you have to be willing to put in the work. And these, now if I see these 7-8 months, if you are willing to put in the work, then for sure this time next year you should also have a great result.
Okay. Last couple of questions. Like one is when they go into this VRC section, first 5 minutes or our first couple of minutes, how the mindset need to be,
right?
And at the timer ends, when they go into next section, at that time how their mindset need to be, because a lot of students will miss in those things and they spoiling all the entire section.
Yes, that is actually a very good question because a lot of people don't realize this. So first, as I said, I would say go for question paper view, choose your 2-3 easy RCs and maybe start with VA as a warm up, but definitely start with the easiest questions. Towards the end, see, if you have 1 or 2 minutes left, it is very difficult to take up another question, but maybe you can punch in the theta or a short question, a short jumbled paragraph or something, you can try it. I think the moment the timer is done, what I do is, even if I have written very little on that page, I will actually turn the page. I will be like, now verbal is done. I have to get into the DLR mindset. That is what we tell all of our students. And a lot of times if one section doesn't go well, it can carry through to the next section. You have to tell yourself, if you have done the practice, if it has not gone well, it is likely to genuinely be tough, which means that it is going to be hard for everybody, and this is a competitive exam. So the marks required to hit 99th or whatever will drop. So that is first. Second, even if you feel, oh no, I messed up, at the end you realize, oh, I did 1 RC less, or I made a big mistake. Take DLR. Maybe, you've done only 1 case and you can't get to a second case. Then what do? You got to make the next sections work for you. So if verbal has gone bad, try to get a slightly higher score in DLR and quant. Or if DLR has gone bad, see if you can do 1-2 more questions in quant, right? See, because your sectional cutoffs these days, they are maybe about 7 questions in verbal and say about 5 questions in quant DLR. So if you prepared, probably you are getting that. Even if you don't, there are multiple colleges, including an IIM, where you don't have sectional cutoff also. So your overall high score is what matters. And if one section is not gone well, try to maximize as much as you can from the remaining sections. But if it is done, it is done. And I think there a huge thing which also helps is if you're signing up for multiple exams. See, because if it is only CAT, then already you're very nervous that, oh my God, whatever preparation I've done, whether I get 2 lakhs a month or 3 lakhs a month is all dependent on these 2 hours.
I was that. I prepared only for CAT and I actually want to get into IIM.
But see, the thing is, take XLRI. XLRI is better than so many IIMs, right? Or we generally recommend taking CAT, ZAT, SNAP, NMAT because all of these can get you into top 20 B schools. But the bigger thing is, see, NMAT is something which starts before CAT and you get the result then and there. So imagine if you had taken NMAT, you already have a score where you know that I'm going to get a call from NM, which is also a top 20 B school. Might not be as good as ABC, but it is obviously a top 20 B school. So then you will also go into CAT more confident, saying 1 exam I've cleared. This exam either I clear or I clear the next exam. That's it, right? So life is not over. Because the reality is CAT is once a year and so many top B schools accept only CAT. So that working on that confidence also becomes important, I feel. And I think you have also realized this because you've taken a lot of mocks, right? So that
maybe I am attempting roughly 30 to 35 mocks.
That's it. That is actually higher than what I would recommend, in fact. So that's a great number.
Then the major question is, how much luck plays important role in this journey?
Right.
Like whether luck has helped you in this journey?
Oh, for me, definitely. Because I was somebody where I've grown up in a family that reads books. That is why I started reading books. That is where the verbal comes from. So that is the thing. Or even banking, right? My dad was a banker. So, I was like, okay, this is maybe what I should get into. Of course, I liked it also. So that was there. See, specifically when it comes to MBA, obviously certain ways luck definitely can play a role. Like take something as basic as which center you are in, how is the equipment and all that. What if your mouse is not working? It is just stressful, right? So those things are there. Second, if let's say for example we have had students where verbal is their strong section, but they've got into a year or a slot where verbal is tougher, or vice versa, right? Quant is your strong section. Last year quant was non-standard, it was hard. And so many people had only taken maybe the CAT 2024, they'd prepared according to that because 2024 quant was easier. Right? So those things can definitely happen, right? You can think of something like, the sectional cutoff somewhere is 80, let's say. Somebody is getting 80.01, somebody is getting 79.97. So 79.97% is missing out even though their overall might still be higher. So those things will of course be there, which is also why I would say that you prepare so much that luck should ideally not impact you. So don't think that only this one section is getting me the bulk of my marks. Like if you see me, right, I'm scoring in 50s or 60. So I can say that if I get 50 here, that means to get that 80 or 90 marks, I have to get, like my verbal score can be more than my quant or DILR combined. But what if 1 year somehow I mess up? Then I'm gone, no? So that is the thing. So you have to prepare, and if you take multiple exams also, then the chances of luck being against you will be less. And if you do well in CAT, you have multiple interviews. You just need to crack one. So even if some exam, some interview you are unlucky, maybe they don't like you, maybe they ask you that one question you don't know or that one subject you've not prepared, you always have another one. So does luck play a role? Probably. Should it define where you can get? Maybe not. Right? Like so many people know, because their ACADs are low, they feel, oh my God, I can never crack it. But the thing is, the only thing that these institutes are saying is you have to have a minimum of 50% in your college. It's only IIM Ahmedabad which has a 10th and 12th minimum. Everywhere else you have a weightage, but your CAT score has your highest weightage. And there are multiple top B schools where they're only looking at your CAT or your ZAT or whatever. So maybe I would actually look at the other way around. I would say that whatever has happened so far, MBA can be a very good corrector. Even if you are a fresher like me, or your ACADs are low, or you're not happy with the job that you're in, MBA will definitely, an MBA from a top B school will definitely allow you to take your career to the top. I definitely have, I didn't get into IIT or NIT, right? But as you said, right, so gone to HSBC, gone to Standard Chartered, and a lot of it was because I was from IIM Lucknow.
I think we have covered so many things. Like at last, like what kind of motivation you give it to them, because in this it's actually a long journey. Clearing the exam itself is 1 year. Then they need to undergo 2 years of much more difficult journey. So it's a 3-year journey of very headache.
Yeah, but definitely worth it. So I would say the preparation is the tough part, because see, once you are in B school, you're surrounded with people like you. There is a culture of ambition, I would say, where everybody wants to be that iBanker or consultancy or crack that, right? So, and then you have a lot of seniors guiding you and all of that. So I think that part more or less still gets sorted, right? And you have milestones, like your summer placement gets done in the first few months itself. So there are a lot of these milestones. I would say the difficulties in CAT prep, especially if you're sort of prepping alone, right? Because from now all the way to November, and you are looking at a reward which will come. Like part of the reward is obviously you getting into the B school, but for most of us it is about placement. So that is going to be quite some time later. So I would say if you are either able to prepare with a group of friends, like-minded friends, that is good. You can challenge yourself. We do some group work at MockCat. We see that somebody sees their friend's name on the leaderboard, they're like, "Arey, next time I'm going to get there." So that part, is something which helps. And a bigger thing I would say is mentorship. If you're able to talk to people who've done it, one, they will tell you the true picture rather than, somebody putting up like a clickbait thing or something. And if you can talk to them, you can reach out to them, particularly when times get hard, right? I think that is something which would be really helpful. So like we do mentorship, right? Our main pack, you have unlimited access to Vignesh and me. So a lot of people do reach out asking for one-on-one mock analysis or form filling guidance or POV I'm not getting. But so many of the questions are, I thought I prepared well, but I didn't get a good score, or I'm not doing well in this concept test, or I'm finding this part hard. Can you guide me? So that part, if you have access to somebody like that, I think that carries you through. I am not great at motivation, but I will say this: I had a fantastic experience in IIM Lucknow, and I think an MBA really allows you to take charge of your career, but an MBA from a top B school. So know that CAT will be a little tougher than maybe some of the other MBA entrance exams, say a state level exam or something, but it is definitely worth it. So give it your best, and then like this time next year, I think then you'll be in a great position.
Okay. I think this podcast we discussed about so many things in this podcast, and even after watching this podcast, if you have more doubts, you can reach out to us in the, you can drop us the comment in there. And if you want to, get this free one-on-one mentorship, because MBA Tamil and MockCat is giving like 15-minute free mentorship students to a lot of students, and that form link will be in the description. You can enroll in that. And thank you for watching this video. Thanks, ma'am, for sharing and giving so many detailed information about this.
Thanks for having me. I think this was a lot of fun, and all the best to everybody who's watching.
Bye.